So we're going to talk about some of the sheets that you're doing with the substitute today, just to give you an idea. Some of you have really been working on this, some of you haven't, so this will hopefully get us all on the same page so that we can all do this. So this is that first subtraction sheet. You should be doing this once you've finished the quiz. And the quiz looks like this. It says that at the top. You should not be doing this sheet until that is done. So make sure you've done that and you turned it in, and then you're on to this as your next step. So remember, we talked a little bit of Friday with some of you, little with everyone, but a lot with some few of you, that we don't subtract anymore. Because sometimes you can't. We looked at that in the warm-up, and we're not going to go back over that. But just know that, like here, if we have 4 negatives, we can't take away 5 positives from 4 negatives. So what we end up doing with subtraction is we actually change the problem. So anytime you see subtraction from now on, you're going to make that subtraction into a plus. But you can only do that if you change this too. So what we do is we add the opposite. And that's what you're going to do in every subtraction problem. Add the opposite. So the opposite of positive 5 is a negative 5. And then you just use what you've known about integers. That most of you have written down integer rules, or you've used chips enough to know that if you have 4 negatives and you add 5 more negatives, you end up with 9 negatives. So the great thing about subtraction is it's nothing new. You've been doing it. This just is one new step where you're adding the opposite, and then you use addition rules instead. So moving on to this one, negative 5. Well, we don't subtract anymore, we add. And then we have to add the opposite. So what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. So now we have a negative 5 and a positive 4. Since they're different, we subtract, and that 5 is bigger, so we take that sign. We're going to keep moving down. When you're doing yours, you should be writing on yours just like I did. Now usually I don't make both marks, I just make the one, but it's easier to see if I do both, so when you're watching on the camera. Same thing here, 0. Change that. What's the opposite of positive 2? A negative 2. So 0 plus negative 2, well, if you add anything to 0, it stays the same, so that would be negative 2. That's the identity property. Moving on to this. Add the opposite. So what we really have is 6 plus 3, which is 9. And hopefully you figured out and written down when you get to the addition, just in case you're confused about this right now as you watch. Same sign means you add and you keep the sign. Different signs mean you subtract and you take the sign of the biggest number. So I think most of you figured that out or written it down so that you have it, but just in case you were just confused about what I was doing, that's what I'm doing. Let's do another couple of problems. Since it's subtraction, we always are going to change it now to addition. And what's the opposite of positive 3? A negative 3. So we have actually negative 3 plus a negative 3. Since they're the same, we add and we keep. So spend $3, spend more, we spend 6. We change this, add the opposite. 4 plus 4 is 8. So that should get you to that sheet. You should be able to finish all the front of that and then get that turned in.